Are there any updates to report? None? Yes? None? All right.
All right, the good news is I have all my updates written on this piece of paper. Bad news is I write real small. There's some pretty important meetings that have happened recently. I don't know if y'all know, but there's an interstate project going on from the 116 to around the 111. And we felt, and when I say we, I'm talking about 4 of our local legislators, our local sheriff, the Benton mayor. I'm going to leave somebody out. We said we must speak with Lori Tudor, the director of RDOT. Yeah. And we had almost a 3-hour meeting with Miss Tudor. And I'm going to tell you what, I walked out of there wondering, just wondering. I mean, I felt like she was hearing what we were saying and she was very responsive. But there were some simple suggestions. And here's the deal, we're in a bad spot. I hope this week you have seen some sort of difference. But I'm going to tell you specifically the differences. And we said, okay, we've heard all of your challenges. RDOT has taken over the maintenance on the westbound repairs. So what that means is, I'll just be candid, I was very concerned that the relationship between the Johnson brothers and any vendor might delay product showing up. I'll just say that. And so there needed to be a direct line and a secure source of payment for any vendor that was going to put asphalt down to do repairs. And tell Johnson Brothers to get over there and get concrete laid so we can drive on new concrete. And they've divided those, and I hope that you've seen local vendors out there working on these repairs. They've since poured the deck on the river bridge, and our traffic count in stalls has improved, and I think they will continue. Another thing was timing. 5 a.m. to noon is not a good time. It's just not. And I get the importance, but communicate with us. Say, hey, we're not going to do 5 to noon, but at 10 p.m. tonight, we're going to start working on this horrific traffic pattern. So yesterday and today, they did that. They did it from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Now, I take my daughter to school at Caldwell. Man, here's the deal. My daughter went to school with me. Went to work with me a month and a half ago because I couldn't get her to school. Right. And my first meeting was at 8:30. Now, she didn't mind it, but I'm sure there were a lot of other people that minded it. Very receptive, and they did it very quickly. I told you about the Johnson Brothers. They are to have new concrete. Now, hey, I get it. I'm the messenger here, and I'm going to tell you. From the 116 to the 111 westbound, about 32 days from today, we should be driving on new concrete in that area. And we'll see if that happens. Neighborhoods around that area, they are beating our city streets. That day I couldn't take my daughter to school. In that 8:30 meeting, I was so distracted. Because I counted in a 15-minute meeting 26 18-wheelers that drove by on Sevier Street by the courthouse, just beating us to death. The mayor is hearing from people running over mailboxes and all of that. So they have helped us post, like Brownwood's one, post weight limits and set the highway police there to ticket people if they don't acknowledge the weight limits. I talked about the timing. I've talked to the legislators, and here's the deal. I want everything to finish ahead of time and under budget. I hope I never receive a penalty dollar ever from a catastrophe like we have right now. They are being fined $77,560 a day. It's about $29 million a year. Going forward, and I'm not smart enough to figure it out, but there needs to be a local component to that. If we were to receive 10% of the punitive damages that have been caused, we would get $3 million a year. Now, that's not going to fix the mess we got, but it certainly would help. I'll end with this on as far as that goes. I truly believe that a fresh perspective was brought into that office that already knew that we got a mess. With constructive ideas and conversations, this is the last one that we brought to her. If there's somebody on Grand Street that has a heart attack, and we're backed up 11 miles, the chances of you not surviving that heart attack are great. We must have deliberate, intentional, direct communication. We now have an app that they have, that the Benton Police, our fire departments, our communication directors, myself, the mayor, know what the traffic pattern, I'm not talking about scheduled lane shifts. I'm talking about what's going on out there right now. So we can tell our EMS providers, we need you on the other side of the river. And then we'll figure out how to get you to the hospital. But if we can't get to you, we got problems. Okay, if you would, February the 28th, we're doing a groundbreaking at the Old River Bridge site. If you don't know where the Old River Bridge site is, I'm disappointed in you, but it's okay. For the time I didn't either. So you'll be seeing a lot of that. What time, Trevor?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Central. Okay. I appreciate the conversation tonight about telling people to go out and vote. It was a burr in my saddle when I heard some people celebrating that our last non-presidential primary, that we had doubled the voter turnout. And that voter turnout was only 26%. I've been telling people all week, we were 44th in the state. 44th in the state of 75 counties. Isn't that terrible? Yeah. Well, I was wrong. We're 55th. We're 55th. We've got to do better. I have been talking to people that have the ability to communicate. I can't give you the money that it costs and all, but it is good for the community in which you are in, that people get out and vote. There's never a time that you say, golly, I wish we didn't have so many people that cared that they got out and voted. And you will start to see around Saline County and even into Pulaski County, because our out-migration's 58%, reminders that you can vote now and when Election Day is. So you'll start to see those all over Saline County because of partnerships with folks. Now remember this, you do not have to go to your polling site and tell your friends. You don't have to. Those days are gone. You show up, you vote. Now I know there's a lot of conversations to go there. As we stand right, you show up, you vote. And that's good news. Here's my last thing. The most important meeting that I attended, I lied to y'all, March 26th is a very important day. March 26th is at the memorial over here. We're going to have the memorial for the 51st Vietnam Memorial Day, 6 p.m. If you were there last year, boy, it just jacked me up, man. Golly. It was a beautiful ceremony, and it wasn't much, but man, please show up and show those veterans what they mean to you. Most important meeting that I attended this week was at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We had tornado sirens on a Sunday night this year. Then it snowed. Then it iced. Then it flooded. We had 30 roads underwater. We had 3 very serious water rescues. On that Tuesday, between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m., we fielded 181 911 calls, 50 of them accidents, 1 shooting, 2 house fires, 2 emergency vehicles involved in accidents, and they handled it like a dang champ. They did. This past Tuesday, it flooded, or whenever it was, y'all know it did. And I stood there listening to a 911 dispatcher talk to a woman whose car was submerged and sinking and couldn't open her doors or windows. And then everything went silent. And while the responding vehicles weren't the closest vehicles, the fire chief for Benton was there and goes, I've got guys right across the way from there. I said, man, send them. Lonsdale came. They busted out her back window and pulled her from that vehicle. She's alive today because of their bravery. The week prior, because of the snow and the ice, we had somewhere around 57, some residents of Saline County, some not, that would have died had they stayed outside. I'm just telling you, 1 degree don't work. There were hundreds of volunteers that got together at a warming center at Northside Church of Christ. I had somebody tell me, isn't it a shame with all these churches around town that only one stood up and did something? Well, let me tell you in a loving way, that couldn't be further from the truth. There was a meeting called and people from government and community members and churches showed up. And we had to make a decision between 4 facilities which one to choose. We chose Northside Church of Christ because it's the last to come off power grid and it's close to the hospital. And the lady that went in labor that first night, we were extremely glad we had made that choice. She did finish her meal, which made me nervous. But during that time, I think there were people that it absolutely changed their lives. That those that are looked at as insignificant, or maybe they were serving and thought they were insignificant, found out, man, you love on people, you see people, there's nobody that's insignificant. There's a lady by the name of Deborah who has a son by the name of Daniel. Daniel's 21 years old, and he's challenged with severe autism and Tourette's and mental retardation. Deborah gave up everything except Jesus and Daniel. Her house, her job, everything. Nobody could manage Daniel. She lost her life last week going back to her tent and was washed away by the floodwaters in front of Daniel the day before her 57th birthday. 58th birthday, she's 57. Here's what I learned that week. She had the best dang birthday she ever had in her life.
That's right.
Because she was a believer in Jesus. She got to share that with people that said, my schedule's jacked up, but yes, I'm going to go. And there's people like me who sit and talk to an unsheltered person. And then I reach in my pocket, as I'm probably going to do here in a minute, and I remote start my truck so it's going to be warm inside. I don't need to beat myself up much about that, but I need to realize that there are people out there that don't want a remote started truck, but they sure would love for somebody to love on them. And I hope it challenges all of us because, man, this is a great dang county full of great dang people.
Amen.
And if you're not one that looks at the greatest thing in the world and he sent his son for us, man, I would encourage you to do it. And we'll celebrate Deborah's life at the church on South Street at 11 a.m. and there's lunch afterwards. And you may say, I don't know, Deborah. It's a great chance to show up and tell somebody you care about them. And even if you don't know them, you can tell them he cares about them. So that's the end of my update. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Brumley. Thank you for the hand you had in organizing those warming shelters. We appreciate that. And I know some of you actually went and helped out, so thank you for that. I'm so grateful. Okay.